Hey guys, it's Wilson, and today we're in Sacramento at House Real Estate's headquarters with Tim Collom. And we're just gonna chat business, art, and just what's top of mind.
Yeah.
Especially during this shifted market.
Everything. Everything's on the table for this one.
So where shall we start?
I think the market. Let's talk about the market. Just real quick. No one really wants to hear about it. Like, how many people want to hear an update from realtors, like nonstop, right? But we need to talk about it. Like, you're in San Francisco, I'm in Sacramento. And
what are you seeing out here?
So I think a little bit before we were filming, a little bit along the lines of we're seeing that year over year, things are going down as far as, the sales, and as far as pricing is down, we're like 10 to 15% down, right around there. And then I would say that, the amount of sales that we have, we're seeing 30% less, right around there. So, which is expected. I mean, we couldn't keep going forever, but we're finding that people that are very serious are purchasing right now. And then the sellers that are serious as well, they're starting to price and being realistic about price.
So you're saying the majority of people that think things will keep going down, it's not gonna go down?
Yeah, I think well, I don't know. We'll see. Like, it's hard too. Our group is insulated a little bit because we have that attitude, and we've been around for a little bit in the sense of like doing the business, been in the business for 22 years. So you start to see these ups and downs, like been through 9/11, been through that 2007 crash, all those things. But now you go, okay, what are we doing now? And I think a lot of people are exiting the market as well. So then it leaves us to kind of work with those buyers and sellers.
When you're saying exiting the market, you're saying agents.
Yeah. Some of the agents and different agencies are starting to not be around anymore.
In fact, we just talked about one with over 100 agents in San Mateo that just went bankrupt.
Yeah.
And also I heard a local title company in San Carlos just shut their doors too because transaction counts are down.
Right.
So who's going to make it?
Yeah, I think it's the people that have been around and people that actually, I don't want to say this, but work. That you have to hustle. Right?
Write that one down.
Yeah, let's just write down, you have to work to make money. I think that's
We
that's
might
key.
need to get more descriptive on that. What does that look like?
Yeah, and I think for us, it's just like people that are working for real estate agents that are really back to the basics, right? Yeah. And we're meeting with people. You're coming up and you're going, okay, what's working for you in Sacramento? I'm saying, what's working for you in San Francisco? How do we compare notes?
Yeah.
Like doing things that we wouldn't even have time. And before, a year, 2 years ago, we were like, making all these different sales. And now we're trying to go, okay, what can we do as far as getting back to the basics?
Totally. We've been blessed and so grateful for the last year and this first half of the year.
Right.
So, and now it's getting back to work. I agree.
Yeah.
You actually talked about some interesting things you're working on.
Sure.
A new campaign.
Sure.
Maybe different things that you're doing.
Yeah.
If you don't mind sharing.
Absolutely. I think that realtors are very individual at times, and I think a lot of people don't know where to start, what to do, and they're kind of like, well, maybe I'll send out some postcards, or maybe I should send out, anything as far as like getting online or do some social media or anything that, gives like what I'm doing or a vlog or video, all that. And I think that there's not a clear message, and I think consistency is also tough. So for us, marketing has always been I love it. It's been my fun. It's exactly what I love to do. And I think that what happens is you start creating a consistent brand and consistent, message across the platform and give agents, empower them to create their own marketing to their clients. And I think that's really important these days. And I think that right now, a lot of people get lost, and you'll see a lot of companies, really focus on where you create your individual brand as an agent, and they put their own signs out there. And let's say there's a couple hundred agents, and you have a couple hundred signs all over the community, and there's not a saturation of one name. And so for what we find is that you can have agencies, and not, let's say 500 to 1,000 across the country, like in our company. And you can have in the community, your agents doing everything, and there's a consistency of the sign. And people see the company name and do what it's doing. And it's not like the bigger companies where it almost becomes generic. And I think boutique starts to become where it's in now. And it's always been small to me, has been very, very good. A lot of people have been bigger is better, where I think quality has always appealed to the customer. So with marketing, we have a consistent brand. We have a consistent platform. We understand who and where and when to market to.
Talking about quality and quantity, before we started recording, you mentioned a little bit about your productivity for your agents in your office.
Sure.
How does that compare to legacy companies that are in the marketplace right now?
Yeah, I think that right now we're finding that we're doing very well because, again, we meet on Mondays and Wednesdays. There's a structure and accountability. And I think the bigger companies have been hampered by, what do we do during coronavirus? Do we meet? Do we not meet? What can we do? What's our clear message? And we're finding that the boutique firms and the ones that, like ours, that we see, yours and mine and other ones, they have that consistency. And I think that the hard part is these brokerages don't have that consistency. And in fact, a lot of them have built their brokerages by building people, like getting as many people as they can. And so they get a big building and they get 500 people. And when the market's good, it's great. But if you're not selling houses, then what are you doing? But you keep, obviously hiring more people and that type of thing and saying, we are selling houses. But the numbers are where it starts to get a little tricky because as the market goes down, fewer houses, and then people aren't in the business and like, we need to do this. So I think the bigger companies are struggling. I think they will continue to have a tougher time because it's not as far as having a unique platform and a message, that's going to be a challenge, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
Talking about unique message or a consistent message, which we kind of briefly touched upon earlier. I didn't mention this earlier, but something that has been always top of mind for me is Naval, if you know Naval Ravnikhan. He says something, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And
true.
That is, I think, if you know what I'm talking about,
absolutely
the social game, which we are all social beings and we have to play that. And we have a presence.
Sure.
What's your take on that? And how are you bringing your organization, your team together maybe to share a consistent message?
Yeah, I think that it's a buy-in, right? I think that luckily I got in the business early on and social media just came out and kind of like in the sense of like, it was just Facebook really. I mean, it started with, God, what was it? It was like Napster was the first thing. MySpace. I didn't get into MySpace, but it was MySpace and then it was like generated just to kind of like Facebook, I think.
Yeah.
And we started to use it, and I started to use it in business and way back when there's these news stations that said, oh, you're the first one to kind of like put houses on there. And people were like, that's not a good thing. Like it's privacy, people can see inside. Like I was getting blasted by people. And then now it's like anything goes, whatever you're doing. Like you see people doing crazy stuff. But I think for us, it's just making sure that you're visible. And I think the best and most effective way right now is social media. And during the pandemic 2 years ago, everyone was just on their phones nonstop.
Yep.
And for us, we're like, okay, how do we get the sellers to get exposure? And then, are we going to do Matterport? We're going to do these different things. And I think over time, social media has become a really useful tool. And it's just like anything else. It could be used, and people that don't use it right, it doesn't work for them. But the people that do know how to use it and uses, where to talk to the community, I think that's an important part. And for us, we have a consistent message in our brand and how we operate and our culture. And then we talk about what's going on, educating our clients and showing them all the different things that are happening and what's expected. And like none of us can predict like what's going to happen.
Right.
But like your business, it's the same thing where you're always visible and you're showing, really good content and knowledge.
Appreciate it.
Right? That's how I
Do you see me doing this?
Yeah, not yet. None of this. Like... when they first start, and I know you're struggling with this, but maybe not. I have a tough time. I'm 45 years old. And TikTok. We know, like Facebook, you're like, as soon as your parents jump on, you got to go to Instagram. Then you get onto Instagram and your parents get on there. And then parents get on, if they're starting to do TikTok. But I still, it's tough. And I know it's a very valuable resource. But it's, obviously skips. But I think overall, we were chatting about it. I think so many people have a voice right now, and I think that can be tough too because there's only so much like real estate in someone's head, and what we're all kind of like especially realtors, like we may not be much, but we're all we think about, right? So we just think everyone's thinking about us nonstop,
right?
But I think we're all we're all fighting for that social media space, and I think that's the world right now too, and we're like, are we fighting over people doing like backflips into swimming pools and doing different stuff like that? Or are we fighting over real estate? Or is it like, other things that are happening. So I think for me, it's having a really clear message, a boutique firm that has the same culture, and then really trying to help the community and doing things creatively. And I think that's an important part. And that's really kind of like what keeps me going, I would say, like marketing and stuff like that, because just selling houses, it gets repetitive. And I think for me, I need that kind of, that part.
You definitely have a very unique brand and history that you add into what you do in real estate.
Right.
Which is, for some people might not know, you're also an artist.
Yeah.
How was tying that together? Clearly, it's a passion of yours. Any words on that?
Yeah, I think that everyone has their own passions, right? No matter what you do, whether you golf or whether you're into, any kind of like passion in general. And for me, it was kind of one of those things that was just all coincidental. And I got into real estate at 21 and was selling houses, and basically was one of those things where, you kind of get wrapped up into how you live, and you're like going out and you're drinking at night, or you're like hanging out with friends and you're doing real estate. And I turned it into where I like to drink, and that was not a good, healthy choice for me. And so I had to stop, right? And I'm like, okay, I got to make this conscious decision. And at 30 years old, I stopped. And then I had a good friend who was a doctor. And he's like, how are you going to occupy your time? And I always loved art. I always just did. And I think that overall, I love creativity. I love, music. I'm huge into music. I love like different things of fashion. I love art. I love all these things. And I'm like, what can I do? And I was always an artist through high school and college, but like not where I was like putting things out there. So I started to do that at 30. I was doing it way before, but really kind of going, okay, I'm going to keep myself busy. So at night, instead of drinking, I would go into the studio, and I go, okay, I'm going to keep myself sober and busy and just go. And I think that's what happened, which is unique for me, is that I found that art started to become lucrative. And then of course, I started to turn it into a business, of course. And then it just became fun. But I always kept my two businesses separate. So real estate was separate than art. And I didn't want my real estate clients to be like, oh, he's just painting today. Like, why isn't he out there selling my house? What I found is that people were more related, and they felt that it was like a relatable part of me. And then I started using my art for fundraising efforts, and I started putting it out there and making money for firefighters, or when there was, there's been fires in California for the last 5 years. So we're just seeing that, how can I create something to donate back to the firefighters? Then people started to go, oh, he's in real estate too. And I'm honestly somewhat confused, like we all are, on what we're going to be when we grow up. And I think that I've been doing real estate for a while, and I was like, you know what, I need to do something else. Like there was something that was missing. And I think art's been a big part of it. And I don't know what's next in the next 10 years. And I keep doing art, and I keep selling real estate. And so for me, creativity and marketing and art and real estate all tie together. And I think that's awesome. Any business. Like you were talking about a coffee shop earlier, and I'm like, why don't I start a coffee shop here? And you just constantly, and I'm like, there's just not enough time. That's the hard part, right? Yeah. In doing what you do and what you love.
What's incredible from what you said that I caught was you started really purposefully time blocking at 30.
Yeah. Unintentionally. I think that people don't understand the power of, if you take 1 hour a day, 7 hours a week, and you start multiplying whatever it is. If you're like, I need to learn Spanish, right? And you're like, I'm just going to focus on this for an hour. If you do that more, and that's what actually Arnold Schwarzenegger would do, is he'd just find 1 hour in a day and he'd try to do something else. And I started to do painting and art, and I paint now and still do. I don't sleep. I'm kind of a weirdo when it comes to that. And it's like from 10 to 2 in the morning. And so for 4 hours a night, I'm pretty much in the studio. And in my mind, I'm still thinking of real estate. I'm thinking of things.
Yeah.
But I'm doing art. And I think that ultimately, when you do something over and over again, it's like the talent code, where it's like you start to become an expert. And, you do real estate, you do art, you start to do other things. Then it becomes second nature, I guess, just like anything else.
It's like shower thoughts.
Right, it is. And it's just, I think most people don't. There's two types of people where they have all these great ideas, and then there's other people that just put things into action. And I've learned that if I do a little bit of both and not go extreme on one end or the other, then it's a little bit better in general.
Totally.
Yeah. So I think that right now, the market, what we're seeing is that it's starting to do some things that obviously we predicted. We saw it going up for 11 years straight, like crazy amounts. And then now it's starting to come down. And I think that for us, it's important to get back to the basics. And part of our success has been having a constant message and being boutique and making sure that our agents also feel that they're a part of building something, much, I won't say bigger because I don't know if bigger is the answer. I think it's better. And that really is the most important part, is how can you make our company better? And that's what we've been doing over the years in general.
Love that.
Yeah. And what's been working with you right now as far as your company?
It's really the same. It's still consistently creating conversations with our agents. What's the message are we sharing with our clients? And still sticking to the things that we know work.
Yeah.
Doubling down on the same things. It's not rocket science. It's just doing the same thing over and over, which could get boring, but it's what works. Yeah,
and you said something earlier, like gimmicks, and I think people are falling into that as well. I would think, don't you see, the real estate industry just has always had gimmicks of all sorts of kinds, but I think the basics are what I see working. Like people, right? Talking to people, actually call someone or talk to them and ask them what they're doing and how they're doing and their family is, and then eventually they come back to you, and then building relationships.
At the end of the day, it starts with a conversation.
Right.
And the gimmicks, we're targeted by so many marketing companies and various people.
Yep.
And so many of us in this position are entrepreneurial, and we want to try new things.
Yeah.
And going back to what we do, get what gets us what results is really what matters.
Yeah.
And how fast do you pivot to get results?
Yep.
When you try something new. And I think some people get caught into, I'm just going to say, a hamster wheel of just doing something that might not get them anywhere.
Right.
So.
Right. I agree. I think it's kind of one of those things where in our business, it's been around for a long time. This is not something that's been reinvented. Real estate's been around for a long time, right? Yep. And I think people are the same type of thing. And what's different is the technology. And then I think a lot of people have gotten where let's make everything easy. Mm-hmm. But I think what's sacrificed, and obviously we have a great company that is technology based and all these things, but you can't lose sight of meeting with people. And I think that's where, even a DocuSign, we used to have to sit down and I don't even know, obviously when I first started, you had to sit down and you rip out pages and you give them to the person. And now it's did you read the contract? And then they sign it in 1 second. It comes back to you and you're you didn't even go through any of this, right?
Right.
So I think that the hard part is you lose communication, you lose some of your value as an agent to the general public. And I think that overall, getting back to basics and connecting with people is so important right now for the newer agents and also the ones that have been around for a long time.
Talking about that, just over the last even 2 cycles, what I've seen is the companies that have not made it were companies that prioritize convenience and combined with cost, low cost of doing business.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't know.
True.
Maybe there's a coincidence there.
You pay for what you get, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's key. And I think that you learn a lot about marketing and branding and of consistency, right? So if you look at Porsche, or you look at Louis Vuitton, or any of these high-end luxury Rolex, they've done the same thing over and over again, and it's been years of practice. They really don't do anything to shortchange, and it's just incremental growth, right? That the company now, in markets a year ago, their companies just boomed, and now in 5 years, will they be as successful? Probably not, but at the same time, they do the same thing, and then they withstand decades. We're real estate agents, so okay, let's put out a postcard. Okay, that didn't work. Let's go get a billboard. Okay, that didn't work. Let's have a mixer. You have to do all these things consistent. And it's over years. It's not just a month. It's not 6 months. It's, 20 years of the same thing over and over again,
And I think what's impressive is not just thinking about building a brand of your own name.
Yeah.
It's really something that transcends just yourself and you doing activities in the business.
Right. I felt that, and I think you probably would feel the same, you get to a point of building your own name, and then you're and then what, right? And then I was okay, I am making enough money. My name's out there. I mean, there's only so much Tim Collom that we can see. Mm-hmm. And then I said, okay, how can I create a platform that other people will benefit from? And I think that's where I can teach or at least show agents and give them a place. And a lot of them too, it's just like, how can I work around my friends?
Yeah.
And then those people are the people I work with. Like that's my work family. I have my family, but I also have my work family, which we see each other nonstop. And I think that we've created a platform instead of just the individual broker or individual name. Now we create these companies that really help. And I think that's been key. And then remaining nimble too, like, where we don't have these huge, big buildings and overhead and that type of thing.
Yeah, that's what I fear for a lot of people in our industry right now.
Totally.
Big leases, big spaces, multiple, a lot of fixed expenses, but yeah, staying nimble, and then also what's happening in the back end of not just the brand itself, is the collaboration amongst the people.
Yeah, agreed. I think that it's a closed-off industry in some ways, and then the collaboration of the boutique firms that I've seen, everyone wants to talk to each other of what's winning and what's not. But the bigger brokerages, it's been interesting because I think everyone tries to do that with their masterminds, and they try and get on social media, and they're like, do this, and these are the top 5 mistakes, and this is what's happening. But really, are they getting together and going, hey, here's what's working, here's what's not? And then for us, it's like, how do we make each other better? And that's been, I think, a big part of what we do. And all of us kind of go, okay, how do we collaborate together? And in different markets. Like,
correct.
I don't have that many buyers that are in your market, and you don't have that many buyers in my market, but we go, okay, we have the same concepts and theories of how to execute and make their experience better. And that's the cool part. And then obviously when they have good experiences, they just keep coming back or they refer. Basic business, right?
What is your top 3 sources right now?
Oh man, that's such a great question. And it's something that you should know right away. Social media is a huge one. Number one, probably, like, people go, oh, I see you on social media, or I see this, or I see that branding, right? And it used to be signage in the ground. Signage was the number one thing. Best marketing ever was like, if you get 20 signs in one small area, people are like, man, I see your signs everywhere I go, right? So that it used to be, but social media's replaced that, and social media has become where people see listings. Like we put one on yesterday, like just a teaser, and my phone's just going crazy because it's like, people are all watching. Which house is it? What is it? What's the price? Tell me, like all these things, and they share it. So social media is a big one. The second thing for us right now is advertising, and I think that I'd say advertising, you have to be careful because people call it marketing, but I think we have our consistent brand that we're launching, and we have bus benches, and we have typical realtor, some of the cheesiness that comes with us, right? And that's the billboard.
Bandit signs?
Yeah, right. So nothing, no, not yet. But we have billboard, bus benches, and then other things that like are collateral and some marketing materials. But those are always good sources. So those are people. And then third, the most important one that I see right now is open houses, and that correlates to one simple theory of like, if you're at open houses, it's the only time people come to you, and then you're meeting people. So it's like, and I don't think we've ever had anyone walk in the office and say, I'm looking to buy a house. But in open houses, people are looking, you build your name, the neighborhood. But those 3 things, like social media, overall advertising of like, our brand and campaigns, and then open houses are really big for us right now.
So really a lot of cold markets.
Yeah, for sure.
Same for us, actually.
Yeah, it's, and past clients, I think, I think that would be 4th or 5th. Like, like a lot of times it would be like, oh, that's our first thing.
Yeah.
But I think that it's further down the list. Like those are almost a given. And I think that's maybe how we operate is we try and find the people that we haven't met yet. We already know these people. They're cultivated. We care for them. They have client events. But now we go, okay, how do we get to the people that we haven't met yet?
Because that's the bigger pool.
That's the bigger pool. And that's the thing that most agents and most people aren't willing to do too.
Yeah. Because it's harder to convert. It takes more time, more resources.
Rejection,
Agreed.
Right?
Exactly.
You walk across the street to that owner of that business and you're like, hi, I'm Tim. I'd like to refer you business. How can I do that? And could you do the same with me? Most people just won't do that. And I think that's where we talk about getting back to basics in general. And I think, so for us, those are our 3 things. And then for you guys, like what's been one of the surprise things that you've come across, or what's working for you? I know we talked a little bit about Google reviews and those types of things.
I would definitely say that if you so I'm still listing most of the properties on our team.
Yeah.
And then the themes are unfortunately separation, death, And then a fair amount is move out or move up.
Absolutely.
So, and then selling an investment property.
Yeah.
So targeting absentees has worked well for us. There's no way really to target life events, but there's some niches you can collect data. But for the most part, it's similar to what you're saying. Just a consistent message that, hey, we're in the marketplace, we're here to help.
Yeah.
And then maybe also having in the message, these are the people who recently helped and the stories behind them. It might trigger for that individual to say, hey, I'm somewhat similar. I can relate. I need this help too.
Right.
So it's just a consistent message of, hey, we're here.
Yeah.
And we can help.
Yeah, staying visible. And I think, I feel, maybe you feel this too, but like there's not the people that are just casually moving anymore. And the reason why is because interest rates, they probably have a 3 to 4% locked in.
Correct.
And if they have another bedroom they need, like, we'll just make this one work because they don't want to get into a 6% rate, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like everyone was just casually moving nonstop the last 3 years. And so many people on our transaction numbers and realtors all over the country, and everyone was just going up and all that stuff. But now, like to your point, it's like divorce, relocation, job relocation, or they're tired of what is happening in the cities.
Right.
Those are all very intentional moves. They're not just casual, like, oh, we need an extra bedroom, let's move.
Right.
Right? Because there's some pain associated with that, with the interest rates and what's going on.
There's something internally that's pushing them to even get rid of a 3% mortgage.
Totally.
That's more important than having a 3% mortgage.
That's
So
right. That's right.
It's personal needs.
Yeah, it's interesting, and then I think that we've seen the habits of how agents are. I think we've all been spoiled the last 2 years, 3 years.
Totally.
Like I'm even myself. I'm like, okay, time to get in a suit. Time to go to the office. Start doing some things, like and
back
we've
to
been
basics.
It is back to basics, right?
Yeah.
And we sold. I think we sold upwards of 300 something houses 2 years ago without even doing an open house. And that's kind of one of those things where you're like, okay, well, we don't do opens anymore. And that was during a pandemic, you know? And now we've gotten spoiled, and now we have to do the opposite. And then it's like, you should do 3 open houses a weekend. You
need to be nimble and you need to pivot.
Yep, 100%.
So some people will be here, some people won't.
Yeah. And I think that's, we see that a lot in different industries, but we've seen our industry. I think they were saying, someone told us that it was like the last 2 years, we've seen 40% growth. And I'm like, and then if the market comes down 10 to 15%, doesn't mean we're in this crash. It's just a correction. But everyone likes to use these words that they're avoiding, right? This shift. If I hear the word shift anymore, I'm like, I can't even tell you. Shift is like anyway, we have that. There's a correction, all that. The market's definitely going down, and I'm not afraid of it because I think there's so many opportunities too for buyers right now. Like there's just a huge opportunity.
Agreed. Opportunities to gain market share for us too.
Yeah. Yeah, as agents, right? But I think that the one thing that I find interesting is the ability that now real estate agents can open up their own, or at least be part of running a company of their own, which I think the appealing part of what we do, which is so beneficial and which is so cool, is that we don't have the legal and the technology and the things that we have to worry about, and we can do what we do best, and that's connecting with people and helping agents and helping our clients. And so for us, our company, which I feel is just so strong, has created this thing that they've empowered so many of us doing something that we want to do. I think a traditional brokerage always has a sales manager, and maybe they've sold some houses, but they probably haven't cut it, so they're going to manage all these people. And there's 100 other people in this office. And I feel that the boutique brokerages are just in better shape because for us, like it's the people that are running them are so used to being nimble and being closely knit to the community. And I think that's important.
And our company intentionally partners with people that are very well established, that has market share, great relationships, great presence in respective neighborhoods and cities. So I think that's why it also works.
Yeah. And it's just the overall culture. Like, and it's unsaid. No one ever told me when I joined, but they're like, hey, there's a lot of people just like you, but they're also going to talk to you and they're going to collaborate and you're going to learn. And I think I know more outside of my own community of agents I can collaborate with for obvious reasons. But at the same time, like I can call San Francisco, I can call Millbrae, I can call San Jose, I can call Laguna, and all these agents are the same as me, and then go, what's working, what's not. And that's, to me, such a gift. And that's the coolest part about our company in general.
Totally.
Is that, like, we're all like-minded
It's hard
people.
to quantify the value of that.
You can't, right?
Just a conversation.
Even today, like, just to take away for 5 minutes, I'm like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And then I'm just like, okay, and I know you've done it. Like, it's just, we're in the same position. So I value that. And then you create this tight network of people that understand each other. And I think that's so unique. Because I don't think the big brokerages are talking to each other and saying, hey, what's working, what's not. It's just such an adversarial relationship.
I was going to say, I don't know if you've experienced that yourself at a big box brokerage. But
I haven't. I've never been in that. And I've always been private and boutique. And then you've been...
I've been big box, so I know exactly what you're describing.
Yeah, and it's true from what I hear.
It's a little more cutthroat. As much as on the surface, people will be very polite and nice. Yeah. There's certain things that they withhold intentionally.
Sure.
Because I think most people have a scarce mindset.
Yeah.
They're protecting something.
Right.
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I think that's why our company is very unique.
I do too. And I think that's the one thing that I've learned is that there's no secret of why we're so successful. And our group is doing so well as far as, and I call it a group, but it's really our company is doing so well. It's just because it's the collaboration. And if anyone's struggling, you kind of go, okay, what's going on in your market? What's happening? And I do feel that there's no cohesiveness with these big brokerages in general. Yeah. And again, it was all about how many more people can we just bring in? Just bring in as many people as we can. Let's charge them desk fees and technology fees and all of these things. And for us, it's like, how can we bring in quality people that are like us, that just want to get better?
Right. And that's why with this, we're announcing Own a House Real Estate.
Yeah, that's right. We're combining. I have house, you have own, and we're going to do Own a House Real Estate. I think that's the best, right?
Coming to you soon on social media.
Exactly. That's perfect. That's a good segue.
Tim, thank you so much for meeting with me.
Absolutely.
I learned a lot, and I'm going to take home and implement and maybe even hire an agency.
Yeah.
What are some things you look forward to the rest of the year entering to next year?
I think it's the challenge, like the next 6 months. Like I think that all of us, we talk about the first 6 months, and now it's like, okay, getting back to basics. I actually want to meet with more people. I want to hold more open houses. Like for a couple of years, we just didn't even, it was all by Zoom and by, text and through all these different things. But I'm like looking forward to like getting together, just like today. Like today, us meeting, talking about what works, what doesn't work, what are the things that we find that, are frustrating or things that we notice patterns. But getting together is, I think, the most important part. So connection and people is what I look forward to.
Love that. Yeah, we've been playing in easy mode where we can stay behind a camera and a screen.
Yeah, right? Right. Like right now, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's true. I think getting together and then becoming more connected as a community and talking about what's going on in real estate, I'm looking forward to that. Because I think it's been the Wild West the last 2-3 years. Yeah. It's been crazy.
You're making me think I need to work.
Yeah, we need
to get back and work.
That's it. It's good. Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Hey, buddy. I love that. I do.
Thanks for having us.
So great. It was awesome.